General Hospital spoilers. Portia was murdered. Drew was arrested. A shocking twist that shakes Port Charles. Port Charles has seen its fair share of tragedy, betrayal, and unthinkable acts, but nothing could have prepared its residents, or fans watching at home, for the latest jaw-dropping turn of events. Portia Robinson, the brilliant doctor and mother who fought to protect her family at all costs, is dead. Worse yet, all evidence points to someone no one ever suspected, Drew Kane. Yes, the former Navy SEAL and man of honor has been arrested for Portia's murder, and the fallout is sending shockwaves through the town. But was Drew really the one who committed this heinous act? Or is he being framed by someone with a sinister agenda? Buckle up as we dive into every clue, every tear-stained moment, and every chilling possibility in this 4,000-word deep dive. It started as an ordinary evening. Portia had just wrapped a late shift at General Hospital. Exhausted, she returned home to the house she shared with Curtis. But something was off. A shadow lurked near the staircase. A drink was waiting on the counter, but Portia hadn't made it. By morning, Portia was found dead at the bottom of the stairs. At first glance, it looked like a tragic accident. But the moment the paramedics arrived and found bruising around her neck, the truth became horrifyingly clear. Portia had been murdered. Curtis, paralyzed and now more vulnerable than ever, was asleep in the upstairs bedroom and heard nothing. But the silence would not protect him from the nightmare unfolding beneath his roof. Detective Dante Falconeri took charge of the case, and it wasn't long before the investigation took a dark and unexpected turn. Surveillance footage from outside Portia's house showed Drew arriving late that evening, long after Portia had returned home.
But why?
According to Curtis, Drew had stopped by a few times in recent weeks, often to discuss the chaos surrounding the Yelku-Aurora merger and a strange trail of missing funds that Portia had discovered tied to GH's donation records. Portia had uncovered something. Something big. Something worth killing for. But the most damning clue? A broken watch found at the scene, engraved with Drew's initials. And Portia's phone, discovered in the fireplace, had been intentionally destroyed. When Trina Robinson heard the news of her mother's death, she collapsed into Spencer's arms in disbelief. But the shock didn't stop there. When word broke that Drew had been arrested, Trina's grief transformed into rage. How could he? My mom trusted him, she cried, storming into the PCPD and demanding answers. But inside, Trina couldn't shake the gnawing feeling that something wasn't right. Drew had always been there for her, kind, respectful, a man of principle. Could he really have snapped? Or was someone using Drew as a pawn in a much larger game? As the walls closed in on Drew, Nina Reeves was eerily silent. Carly, on the other hand, was a storm of fury. She burst into the interrogation room, slamming her fists on the table as she demanded answers from Drew, who looked broken but strangely calm. "They're framing me, Carly," he whispered. "Portia found something, and now they've made me the fall guy." Carly's heart raced. She'd always believed in Drew, but the evidence was piling up. Worse still, there were whispers that someone had paid an anonymous tipster to lead the police to Drew's watch. Carly knew she had to act fast. Sam McCall, never one to let a mystery go unsolved, began digging on her own. Her investigation led her to a name buried in a financial shell company, Brennan. Yes, Brennan, the man with international connections, secrets darker than night, and an unexplained interest in Portia's research. Brennan had once been a ghost story in Port Charles, a myth, until he wasn't. Sam found herself face-to-face with Ava Jerome, who reluctantly confessed that Brennan had once asked her for insider info on GH's new experimental neurotech, research spearheaded by Portia and funded by an anonymous investor. Could Brennan have orchestrated Portia's murder to cover up his shady dealings? And was Drew arrested simply because he got too close? Curtis, haunted by grief, began to piece together Portia's final weeks. She had mentioned receiving threats, late-night phone calls, files disappearing from her office computer. He had brushed it off as stress. Now, Curtis couldn't shake the feeling that he had ignored the warning signs. He turned to Jordan Ashford, who joined the investigation with renewed purpose. And what they discovered changed everything. Portia had been in contact with a whistleblower, an anonymous source known only as CT. The name was traced to Cyrus Renault's former henchman, who had turned against his boss and fled into hiding. Was Portia killed for knowing too much? As Drew sat in jail awaiting trial, Sonny Corinthos paid him a visit. The mobster had no love for Drew, but he did have one for Carly, and she was falling apart. "I can get you out," Sonny said, his voice cold. "But I need something in return." Drew, desperate, agreed, but what Sonny wanted was far more dangerous than he imagined. It involved infiltrating Brennan's organization from behind bars and coming out with a name. The real killer. And so Drew made the deal. The clock was ticking. If he couldn't deliver, he wouldn't just rot in prison, he'd die there. In a twist that no one saw coming, Trina discovered a letter hidden in her mother's favorite book. It was addressed to her and written just days before Portia died. In it, Portia expressed her fear that someone inside GH was manipulating patient records, funding, and trials. She didn't name names, but she warned Trina to be careful. "Trust no one," she wrote. "Not even those closest to you." Trina took the letter to Dante, who reopened the case with a new perspective. If Portia knew she was in danger, her death wasn't impulsive. It was planned. As strange alliances formed, none were stranger than Carly and Nina, who began working together, albeit reluctantly, to track down the anonymous investor funding GH's research wing. Their digging led to a Swiss account under a pseudonym, Horizon. And that trail? It connected not only to Brennan but to Victor Cassadine's long-dead shell company. Could Portia's death be tied to a Cassadine legacy still pulling strings from the grave? Just as Drew was preparing to accept a plea bargain, new evidence emerged, a security footage leak showing a masked figure entering Portia's home the night of the murder. The timestamp cleared Drew completely. The masked figure? Brennan himself. He was arrested at the airport, attempting to flee the country with a briefcase full of burner phones, cash, and forged identities. But before he could be booked, Brennan smiled chillingly and said, "It's not over. I'm not the only one." Drew was released, but his reputation was shattered. Portia's funeral was held in a somber ceremony that left Trina in tears, Curtis in silence, and the town of Port Charles with more questions than answers. Who really ordered Portia's hit? Was Brennan the mastermind, or just a pawn? And who is the other one Brennan mentioned? As Sam, Carly, Jordan, and even Sonny unite in an unlikely coalition, one thing is clear: Port Charles is at war. And the battle for truth, vengeance, and justice has only just begun.